Alrighty, we are rolling. Sharp Customs. Little update on the 34 hot rod, the coupe. As you can see, the frame. I think our last video I was kind of constructing the frame. I'll pick it up so you can see it. But I put a crossbar in the back. It's just 3/4 by 3/4 square tubing. The frame has been all kind of welded, ground down. Got the cross member in the front. We got our little tabs here. It's pretty rigid. Actually weighed it. Only weighs about I think it was 2.5 pounds, which if I had to measure the one on the other 34 coupe that's sitting on the shelf with the aluminum frame, I'd say they're probably pretty close. I never weighed that one. I'd have to strip the whole car. I'd have to strip the whole car apart just to weigh the frame. But couple three pounds isn't really that much. I've got a motor sitting here. Now I'm not sure if I'm going to use this. I pulled it off the shelf earlier this afternoon and thought I would fire it up. It's a Yardworks 25cc. What I do like about it is that the clutch is kind of out in the open. So chances of it having a meltdown, I kind of like it. It's 25cc. I don't know if I would keep the canister muffler on it. Maybe. Not 100% sure. But what's kind of cool about this little motor is it's 4-stroke. And I've never built one with a 4-stroke. It's actually kind of quiet. Basically, just the way it's configured, just like that, I could almost just mount that in there, and it'd be awesome. I'm gonna crank it over. You know I'm gonna crank it over. Try a little choke. Pretty quiet. Whoop. Needs warmed up. Ooh, don't know what that was. It's got some power. It's a 4-stroker, which is kind of cool. Don't have to, it's not 2-stroke. Don't have to mix gas and oil. And the way it's configured, I could literally leave the tank right on the side of it. Basically, frame will be sitting up a bit. Make some mounts for it. I'm gonna try it. If I have to swap it out for a Zenoa G23 or something like that, that's what I'll do. Won't go the pocket bike motor, like the 49cc, because they're configured a little different. This is my old truck chassis. I had it down the other day showing somebody, and I'm gonna get back to it. We're gonna this thing's been sitting for a long time. As you can see, it's got no wheels on it. you know, because I've been using the wheels and stuff for mocking other stuff up. But I'll probably get back at that. I want to, let's just say I got some more ideas for it. As you can see, I've got a rear end sitting here, and this is kind of more of the discussion of tonight's video. I'm going to take it out of here. So this one, basically, normally, like the other 34 coupe, and even the truck. If we have a look at the back of the truck chassis, you can see that I've used, basically I've used, you know, block bearings to support the axle. Yeah, everything needs tightened up, everything's loosened up a bit. But it's a grinder rear end. As you can see, this one I didn't even modify it. I didn't cut it. I didn't do a whole lot to it. Yeah, a lot of stuff was loosened up on this. You got a bit of a panhard bar. This one, I didn't have to worry about the slop too much because of the I used a piece of I'm not sure what that is, 3/16 square stock. Kind of what the whipper cable is. I think 1/4 inch maybe. But yeah, so I always do these rear ends, and I have to use like a block bearing type thing in the trailing arms. Look at all this hair and fur. But yeah, I've always used you know, like a block bearing. You know, a lot of the 1/4 scale sprint cars and stuff like that, they use a caged bearing to run their you know, 4-link system or something like that. And this time around I thought I would try something different. So as you can see, I've got my axles, but I've actually got axle tubes off of the grinder rear end, and I do have bearings in the ends. I got to make some bearing caps, obviously, to hold those in. I could just turn a groove in the axle shaft and, you know, put a ring clip, a C-clip, something like that to hold the bearing kind of in place. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab an Allen key, and we're going to pull this apart. You can see this one's been highly modified. Now these things are all aluminum, so a lot of drilling and tapping, you know, to add pieces to it, so that I could make steel axle tubes for my bearings. But yeah, pretty cool. There you go. Look, one of the bearings already slid out. Let's take an axle tube off. Let's take the bearing out. Let's take the axle tube out. Of course, all my fasteners, you know, I kind of set up for this video. I loosened everything up a wee bit, you know, so you didn't have to go through the whole procedure of me, you know, taking out many fasteners. Each one of these axle tubes is held on with a 5mm socket head fastener. So there, we can pull the axle tube off. It's been drilled and tapped to part of the grinder housing. Bearing will fit in there. Like I say, we have to create a cap or tabs or something. So here, if you look at the front of this grinder, you can see that bearing that's stock. I did not do that. That's how the bearing's held in, just by those 2 screws. That would have been inside with the you know, part of the armature. Where did I get the grinder? Well, put it this way, I'm down a grinder. The brushes in one of my cheapy grinders, you know, that I use on a daily basis, the brushes wore out. And I was like, well, you know, I'm going to pull the head apart and I'm going to have a little look at it, see what the gear ratio is. So this gear ratio is, it's like 330 to 1. Not a bad gear ratio for a car. You know, in hot rod standards, like my truck outside, I'm running actually a 373. I prefer something up in that area, but you know, 350 is kind of a nice gear. So yeah, as you can see, this shaft, okay, yes, my axle shaft is a little small here, but that's to accommodate this size bearing. Why this size bearing? Well, you know what? Shit, because I had them. Okay, so my wheel hubs, here's a primal with a wheel hub. A little sloppy. They were 1/2 inch. These wheels are off of that chassis underneath the table. So basically all I'm going to have to do is make new wheel hubs. And I'll just have to machine out this size axle for the center bore. Not a big deal. I do not have a problem making these hubs 24mm hex. You know, the other 34 coupe, I had to actually do the centers out at 10mm to fit those axles because of the trailing arms and the block bearings that were on there. You know, bought them off Amazon, and I bought, you know, I always buy extra, you know. I don't just buy 2 just for the car I'm building. It's like, you know what, no, I'll buy 4 because maybe the next project that I'm working on, I just might need them. This one, like I say, I went a different route because I wanted axle tubes, and okay, here it is. This is why I went with axle tubes. With the axle tubes mounted, I can make brackets that I can actually tack weld to the axle tubes, and I could either do old school ladder bars, or I could do a 4-link to hold this rear end, which gets rid of that. It gets rid of the slop up and down. So really, all I need with this one would be a panhard bar, you know, to keep it moving from side to side. But let's carry on. Let's tear this thing apart. You'll get to see this. I've been working on this thing for 2 or 3 days now. As far as some of the machining, there's lots. Trust me, there's lots of, you know, lots of lathe work. I want it so that these axles are removable. They have to be removable. Let's just put it that way. So there you go. So that was where your your desk or whatever would have went on there, but this has all been machined, and this is hardened steel. This takes a little bit of work to machine down. You know, I gotta put set screws in here, and then what I do is I because this is machine steel, you know, it's hardened, I can't put dimples for the set screws, and I'll show you over on the other side. I'll show you on the other side how I go about it anyway. Let's just get these fasteners out of here. Should have had me an Allen key with the you know, the dome on the end. That way you can kind of go at it angular. Makes it a little quicker. I do have them. Take this bearing. We got this housing. Yes, okay, one housing is longer than the other, and that's just kind of the nature of the beast, and that works the same with almost a real rear end. you know, because you're trying to line it up center, and everything is on the rear end is not, it tends not to be what you want. So this one, yeah, I had to make this aluminum piece, this aluminum piece, and I had to drill it and tap it to the other side of the grinder. I wanted to make it tapered to kind of match this side, but I just, you know, that's how it ended up. I had all these different ideas and all these different plans, and sometimes they just don't pan out. They don't pan out. All this stuff is just, it's all just snug, you know, so that I, you know, just want to do a short little video update like usual, you know. Don't want to put you through the pain of me but I do like to show you. I like to show you where it's at. There we go. So there, now I can, basically I can separate the grinder. So pretend that all this isn't there. Pretend that this block and this shaft isn't there. Here's where your disc would be. This is where your armature and your housing and all that. But of course I cut a lot of the aluminum away to make it a little more sleek. So there we go. We got the crown gear. We got the pinion gear. And there inside here you can see where I've got the three fasteners holding my block of aluminum on. Now, this fastener, that was a pretty heavy duty block, but of course the webbing around it was pretty thin, and these two bolts, they're going through like maybe a 1/16 of material. So the webbing broke because when I was spinning it up with a drill, and the webbing broke. So now I got to come up with an alternative, because this block actually flexes just a wee bit, and I'm actually afraid of it. I'm actually afraid of it breaking right off of there. So I'm going to come up with some way to fasten that aluminum block a little better. And as you can see, I got some openings, you know, because where I was carving all the aluminum out. It would be nice, obviously it would be great if I had a TIG welder, because I could just make that, block permanent to this housing. I don't own a TIG welder, at least not yet. I am looking into it because I've always wanted one. But so yeah, there's that one piece. That one holds the pinion. And yes, you can see this block has been carved out to kind of make way for the pinion. Now the other side, this is the inner side. So as you can see, it's not bad. It's not perfectly true if you can watch this. And that's because I got the set screws in this shaft on a little the same as this. It's exactly the same as this piece here on this side. Normally when I make these rear ends, you know, I put my axle shafts on like that and I weld them. I weld them up. I weld it here. Problem being is there is a bearing inside this housing that I would like to access, and that's why I decided to go with axle tubes, you know, set screws to hold my shafts on. So I'm gonna grab an Allen key. Now this is hardened steel. These shafts in the grinders is hardened steel. You can't drill it. There's no way you can drill it. And when I put in a, like this here, when I put a set screw into a shaft like this, normally, you know, if it's, this is mild steel. It's just mild steel, so I can actually drill a dimple for my set screw to go into that's gonna, you know, that's gonna hold the wheel, kind of lock it in place. Whereas this stuff on the grinder is hardened steel, and you can't really, you can drill it if you got carbide drill bits, but even then it's a little tricky. So there is an alternative. And that alternative I will show you right now. So I got this one undone. There, I just pulled it off. Now this one, you can see it's not quite as long. I like that. I like that length. You know, it's a little bit more length. I almost dropped it. But as you can see, what I've done is I have put flat spots. Put it in the light. I put flat spots with the grinder for my set screws to kind of bottom out on. Now I tried to make all my machining as precision as possible so that we don't get a whole lot of, you know, we don't get a whole lot of movement this way. But sometimes it happens. You get that little bit. You tighten up a set screw, and the shaft tends to, you know, pull upward, and you don't get it spinning true. I would love to drill a hole straight through this hardened steel and actually run a roll pin. Now, I had many other ideas. I thought about welding, you know, like the, you know, like kind of like what's on this this GT40 sitting here. The way it has the dog bones and the dog bone cups. I thought about welding those because I have some spares kicking around, and I thought about actually welding those on these ends of the grinder shaft, and then kind of, you know, on the ends of these, you cut a dog bone. Could have drilled this smaller and put it on, and, you know, plunked it in there. So basically you have a dog bone and a cup inside here, but then you'd have to run internal bearings to hold, you know, hold it here and hold it here inside the you know, the axle tube. And I just thought that was basically what I've already done was enough work in its own. You know, like I say, 2-3 days kind of fabricating all these bits and pieces up. And it's like, put it together, try it, take it apart, spin it a little bit more in the lathe. You know, put it together, try it, spin it a little bit more in the lathe. And it goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And yeah, that's not really how I work. I'm like, I like to just get to the point. But there you have it. You got to see the breakdown of my newest grinder creation. It's not finished. It's not perfect. I got a little bugs. Got a few little bugs to you know, kind of clean up on it. And the whole thing all put together is 2 pounds. It's 2 pounds. Something else I just most recently discovered, that 1934 coupe sitting up on my shelf. The way it's sitting right now, I scaled it, and I've been saying, you know, every time I pick it up off the shelf and I put it on the table and I display it for my viewers, I say, oh yeah, you know, we're probably around 25, 26, 27 pounds. I finally scaled it. It is a whopping, it is a whopping 34 pounds. That's that's pretty heavy. I would have never thought that that was 34 pounds. Okay, before I sign off, you're probably wondering why the yellow GT is sitting down here. And it's quick, it's simple. I had a viewer want to know basically some measurements off of it, and that's why it's sitting here. You know, that's why it's sitting here. I'm gonna get back to this project. I will get back to this project. This one of my favorites, but you know, I've been kind of involved in the 34 coupes, and that's, you know, I fly with the moment. Let's just put it that way. I fly with the moment. You know, the 34 coupe up on the shelf, that one is almost done. I started building one for myself. I'm still going to produce some more bodies of the 34 coupes. The GTs, don't you trust me, the GTs will come back, especially this one. This one is going to be heavy duty feature with the quarter scale. I was actually looking at it sitting here on the table earlier this evening, and I was like, wow, you know, I could do something pretty cool with the suspension where, you know, I hit like a channel on my radio and the car literally goes twoosh. Not airbags, maybe servos or actuators. Lift it off the ground with, you know, you can do crazy stuff with your shock absorbing system. You could run some cantilever stuff and some heavy duty servos, and you could do it electronically instead of, you know, air ride system. But then I thought I probably won't go down that road because a GT40 sits where a GT40 sits. You know, a few inches off the ground, and that's probably where this will be. But like I've said, I said a long time ago, I got lots of surprises with this GT40 build, you know, that I'm not going to disclose until I get there. I still got the doors to cut out on this one. I still got the whole front section of the chassis to build. You know, I'm still working on this stuff. You see me sandcast, you know, some of the aluminum bits and pieces, and, you know, mess up with my lathe mill making, you know, the block bearing holders that mount to the control arms. So yeah, we got a long road to go. Right now I'm kind of stuck. I'm kind of stuck in 1934 coupe land. But there you go, man. Sharp Customs. Share, like, subscribe. Love your comments. I do not get enough comments. Come on, people. Make some comments. Love you all. Peace. I'm out.